Welcome to Hope Does Not Disappoint, a podcast brought to you by the Office of Youth Ministry of the Diocese of Tucson. We invite you to join us as young people engage in meaningful conversations with Bishop Weisenburger, exploring questions about life, faith, and the journey of hope in the context of 2025 Jubilee of Hope.
Hello, this is Father Manu, and I'm here with Bishop Weisenburger from the Diocese of Tucson. I'm the Director of Youth Ministry. So, Bishop, we have prepared some conversations that you are going to have with young people. So, this is in light of the synodal time that we are having, engaging with different communities. And one I want you to approach is youth. So the questions are there for you. And the first time I approached you with this idea, you made a very interesting suggestion. You wanted a positive outcome. So then, since we are approaching the Jubilee of Hope, I said, I think that's perfect. Approaching these questions from the perspective of the good news and hope. Let's begin by talking about the Jubilee of Hope. What's a Jubilee? What's coming up? What is that?
Yeah, you're right. It's a good question. I always think you really have to go to the Old Testament. And a Jubilee in the Old Testament was about every 50 years, but you have to remember, lifespans were short. And so 50 years was a long time, probably at least 2 generations. But every 50 years, as the rich got richer, the poor got poorer, and people tended to stray from the intensity, the zealousness of their faith, it was a corrective. Slaves got their freedom. The debts were absolved. If you had borrowed on your farm, your debt was wiped out. So it kind of socially equalized things up again so that community relationships could be closer once again. Because if you let that go on forever, we can see that in every human history era, the more and more people get shattered apart, the more troubled the culture is. So it was a way of bringing everyone back together again, kind of hitting Control-Alt-Delete on the computer. But it wasn't just a social thing. It was also a deeply religious thing. And about every 50 years, when they would do a Jubilee year, it was also a time of intense return to the covenant. Because our roots are so firmly in Judaism, we see that same experience come to life in Christianity and especially Catholicism. So I believe it was 1300 was the first Jubilee year. And at first they were every 50 years. Now they're every 25 years. So like I was there in the year 2000 when I was priest in Oklahoma, and we took a pilgrimage to Rome. Oftentimes it involves a pilgrimage. But we can also have an extraordinary, for a special reason, the Pope can call an extraordinary Jubilee year, which he did a few years ago for the Jubilee Year of Mercy. You all should remember that one. And so it was to, again, establish right relationships within the church, but also we sent out missionaries of mercy and we preached mercy at a time when the Holy Father felt we were kind of in trouble. So now we're at an ordinary one because it's going to be 2025. We do them every 25 years. And this one is on hope. And I'm so grateful to Pope Francis because I think he's doing what we said in the Second Vatican Council is you have to read the signs of the times. That phrase really welled up from the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s. All religious leaders, all of us need to read the signs of the times. And he said, what are we missing? We're missing hope. Again, he talks about that demographic desert of whole populations not wanting to have children. We have a disrespect for human life. We're telling elderly and sick they should turn to euthanasia. We have certainly the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And so he's really sinking his roots deeply into our biblical and our church history and tradition of a Jubilee year. And I think he's really reading the signs of the times that what we need is hope. And I think he's really correct. I'm probably saying too much, but just quickly, a Jubilee year almost always involves the concept of pilgrimage. And that comes from we're on a journey of life. And so the pilgrimage that we take in the Jubilee year is kind of a focusing down that journey of life and experiencing it in a spiritual way. And what happens on a pilgrimage is it's not just the destination, it's getting there is a big part of it. So it's what you encounter on the way. The beauty of God's creation that we encounter in the journey. But then, like our young people are going to go to Rome at a special time, the Holy Father wants to see us young people, you young people. And that's exciting because you're going to see incredible artwork. You're going to see the origins, the early days of Catholicism. And that's a real sense of renewal. I'm renewed every time I've gone to the Holy See. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that kind of renews our hope and resets us back to where we're supposed to be in that relationship with God.
So you were there in 2000.
Oh, yes.
So this is an interesting part of my story. I remember seeing the Pope.
I don't remember seeing you.
No, hold on. I was watching on TV and the Pope was opening the doors and I was so moved by what I saw that I said, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
And when I saw that this was coming, I was like, I have to go because I don't know if I'm going to be here in 25 years. So I got to go now. I was in high school. And I think the fact that we are taking young people now to the Jubilee, I think that's how God works. You know, it took him 25 years to say, yeah, you are going, but you got to take more people with you. It's got to get bigger.
Actually, I went in the year 2000 because the diocese I was in at that time, Oklahoma City, the bishop there did several trips that year. And so he asked some priests to help him with those, kind of shepherding the flock. And I got to be one of those priests. It was fun. The door is a big issue. It's, in fact, the Holy Year door at the Vatican is kind of bricked up at the end of the Holy Year. There's a special ceremony when it's open because it's kind of the destination to walk through that door. And the Holy Father is asking every bishop in the world to have a mass this year. I think it's on the, I should have looked it up. It's between Christmas and New Year's. It's the Sunday. He wants every bishop in the world that Sunday, I think it's the 28th or 29th.
It is the following weekend.
To celebrate a mass in his cathedral and declare one of the doors the Holy Year door for his diocese and to preach on hope. So this is something the Universal Church is going to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're trying to set up big projects for youth during this year. I hope you are successful. I hope too. We're doing our best. So you see all these people partaking in those projects here right now. But, one of the things that we always hear, and I challenge that, is that youth are the future of the church. People ask me if I have a plan for the Diocese of Tucson, and my answer is no, I don't know what I'm doing. But one thing is I would like to help the community and the diocese to see youth as the present, because they are, our baptism is what sets everyone to be the present of the church, even a baby. And I think it's also important to address the concept of hope, because we often assume that hope is about the future, and it is about the future. So we know where we're heading, and God has history in his hands. But also, we cannot just assume that it's only about that moment, because if anything, the kingdom has already broken into history through Christ. So hope is connected to the present too. And if we can connect the two of them, the present and the future, I think we would be more joyful and active, So no long ago, I was invited, and the reason I say this is because I was invited to give a talk on youth in a Latino community. And they gave me the title. And in Spanish, and I just realized this because I am a Spanish speaker, I'm Mexican, that in Spanish, we don't say that jóvenes son el futuro. We don't say the future. We actually say they are the hope. And I said,
we need to borrow that in English.
I need to borrow that. Yeah. And they asked me, would you give that talk? And I read the paper, and in Spanish it says, los jóvenes, la esperanza del mundo.
Exactamente.
Youth are hope for the world.
Yeah.
So I don't know what my question is, but
I'm not sure I do either.
At least if we can help the community to shift that understanding of hope, not only about the future, but something that brings joy to the present.
Yeah.
That is calling us to work.
Even if it's not a question, I think I can respond. And I certainly agree. In fact, before I finish or delve into my comments, I want to let you know how grateful I am for what you do, because I think you're doing a marvelous job and young people are responding well. And I think you embody a joyful sense of hope for them. And for that, I'm grateful. We need that in more of our religious leaders. And if you tell me you don't know what you're doing, then that means you have the potential to be a bishop. So we don't always know what we're doing either. So nevertheless, that title of that document, I believe in the Latin, is Spes non confundit. Whenever they write a document in Latin, they got to come up with some catchy words in Latin at the beginning.
Hope does not disappoint.
Hope does not disappoint. Mm-hmm. And that's the very core, that's the heart of what the Holy Father wants us to hear. And I just find it's critical for us to get back to that sense of hope. And when Father talks about how young people today aren't the future, I mean, it's a paradox. You are, of course. I won't be here at some point. You will be. And that's good. That's the way it's supposed to be. There was a time when I was probably a sense of hope for people. But I think you are hope and you have hope. And it's whenever we say just casually the youth or the future of the church, what we're really saying is you're off the hook. You don't have to worry about it now. You're the future. Don't worry about it now. And that's a lie. Because the truth is, as I sometimes say at confirmations, you have everything you need to be Christ in the world today. And again, that's probably not going to be in leading big programs or having thousands of people follow in your footsteps, but individual relationships, exponentially, it's going to explode. That's how we're going to make the difference, by witnessing to individuals and our good example, even more so than our words. As St. Francis, you don't know anything about Francis, do you?
I got it here.
Oh, okay, all right, it's a Carmelite. But Pope Francis, not Pope Francis.
Oh, St. Francis.
St. Francis of Assisi, I believe he was the one that would say, preach the gospel always, and occasionally, if necessary, use words. And so that's the hope that I think you all engender, and I think it's the hope to which you give witness. And it certainly renews my vocation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bishop. So, one of the things that I'm trying to do all the time for the diocese is to create opportunities for them to encounter each other, mm-hmm. and let the seeds just spread across the diocese. But hopefully next year is going to be a big time for us to have those
nothing
moments.
Can replace in-person, human-to-human interactions and friendships, and that's so critical, not just for our emotional well-being, but our spiritual well-being. Human beings are communal by nature, and our religion builds upon that. And every time we try to isolate ourselves, it's not just our emotional and physical well-being that suffers, but our faith suffers.
Thank you, Bishop. Can I just finish with an actual quote from the document from Pope Francis? The Bull of Indiction, in number 12, he says that signs of hope are also needed by those who are the very embodiment of hope, namely the youth. They often see their dreams and aspirations frustrated. We must not disappoint them, for the future depends on their enthusiasm. It is gratifying to see the energy they demonstrate, for example, by rolling up their sleeves and volunteering to help when disasters strike and people are in need. So the Jubilee should inspire the Church to make great efforts to reach out to them. With renewed passion, let us demonstrate care and concern for adolescents, students, and young couples, the rising generation. Let us draw close to the young, for they are the joy and hope of the Church and of the world.
Amen.
Thank you.
Bene?